Hey everyone, Jacob here, and in this video I wanted to share with you what's latest in GoodUI Catalyst 1.4. As a refresher, it's a Figma template or framework which is used for designing better and clear experiments or A/B tests. I use this on projects and I introduced a couple adjustments or changes since the previous version. And yeah, just wanted to kind of quickly go over them and hopefully you'll find this beneficial. I'll also link to the free download in the description. So one major thing which I changed since last time was the kind of a layout or the structure, and I wanted to get back to the core of the essence of what this thing is about. And one thing is it's supposed to be helping people design clear experiments. Okay, so having a kind of or what the control is essentially a screenshot of what the current status, what the current version of a screen or set of screens. So this is dedicated. This is the dedicated place for that. So typically I would replace this with whatever you're, whatever kind of changes you're making or where you're making those changes to. This would be like screenshots of home pages or checkouts or whatever. That's followed by, of course, kind of this wide space for exploring ideas. So another thing I like to encourage, and I also like to force myself to do while designing experiments, is not to get stuck with just the kind of single idea or the first thing that comes to mind. So sometimes we might be looking at a particular hypothesis or trying some sort of solution to something, and the first one isn't always the best or is rather limiting. So essentially all this horizontal space here, that's dedicated for just playing around with these kind of ideas, generating as many versions of that particular hypothesis or that approach, and pushing them sideways. Okay, so that space should be unlimited, and anything going right ways is meant for that. Which comes to this point here. So the actual test, whatever is later on after finishing kind of exploring a bunch of ideas, that's this little section here. And let's say we decided only to go with kind of A and B, and kind of trying to exclude or maybe test these kind of ideas separately, or maybe in future experiments. I started using basically this kind of started dragging these, this kind of component here or this element here to convey to people that, hey, only, let's only test whatever's kind of covered underneath of this. Okay, whereas this is potentially future tests or outside the test scope. So that's the kind of test component here. I also use this kind of clarify where the test starts with these kind of triggers, where it runs, where the changes are visible. So often these are the same, but not always. Audience, device types, what kind of A/B test type it is, do we have any kind of supporting evidence, a general prediction, and of course goals. Goals, some of these kind of primary ones, I'll make them bolder. Maybe I'll call out that it's a primary. If we need more goals, we can always do things like this with Control Alt, and you can add more stuff, and you can rename these as well. Okay. And then also this inspiration section. So I had this before, but I really wanted to kind of call this out and as another section that can be filled with ideas or patterns or templates or past test data or qualitative research, or screenshots of other companies solving the same problem. Maybe, if I'm working on checkouts, I might drop like 5 different checkout screens from different, leading websites, and use that essentially as inspiration. So I'm not designing in a vacuum, and these things are kind of referenced. And sometimes that, again, there's like a lot of different interesting approaches to the same problem that is being solved in the A/B test, right? So this left space here is all dedicated to inspiring, yourself as you design, as you explore these kind of ideas. And that's kind of central yeah, that's kind of like the the central framework: inspiring, and then exploring, and then whatever you decide to run with, you potentially could test. Okay. As a little side note here, I also added some of the kind of components in case you might want to wireframe some kind of ideas. So these are some things, I don't know, buttons and placeholders and very, very basic form elements. So I included these here. And then one more little thing I want to mention is, I mean, this was in previous versions already, but making your changes explicit. Okay, so these are all these little notes here that we have. I think that's very important because, when someone looks at your experiment and tries to decrypt or understand, like, okay, what exactly is changing. So that's one reason why we kind of do that. Another reason why I try hard to kind of express these is to even see, make these things visible. Are these really the changes we want to test, or are there too many, or are there maybe, should we basically to have this kind of test design very, very visible and explicit for yourself and for others. And I also include this little sample, very simple approach. So previously I shared with you some kind of, the case where you might want to design like a wireframe or maybe a detailed, approach for a particular variation. But I think it's okay to sometimes, diminish the effort or lower the effort. And in certain cases, we might have, we might want to express where we're removing something. And all we need to do is maybe just mark it out as like, hey, we just want to get rid of the squiggle as, in variation B. So maybe minimizing effort, lowering effort by just using text references. In other cases, this idea of partial screens is also a way of minimizing effort by not having to kind of redesign the full thing, that's not the full screen, that's not changing, but only referencing, like, for example, with this little component here, or this little marker, that, hey, we're only changing this. And then here it's referenced with some sort of number. And then let's say we want to change one squiggle to 3 squiggles. And that's what we have here, right? Just so instead of, again, designing everything else, just a little focused partial screen here. And again, just another, example of text changes. So let's say we want to make some sort of adjustment that everyone will understand by, using text, then I think that's fine as well. So, so that's a way of, I guess, optimization itself is like just trying to, save time if you can, right? But again, so I'll leave that up, up to whoever is designing the experiment. Sometimes we want to use more detail, sometimes just text, and that's, up to you to decide. So yeah, that's version 1.4 of Catalyst. Let me know what you think, comments, feedback, how I can improve this, and hope you enjoy this. Cheers.